Hi guys.
Oh, hi!
Hello!
So, what's in the table for today?
I prepared some breads and teas.
Okay.
So I guess it will be just another coffee talk, right?
Yes.
As usual.
In chorus.
Nothing, Go.
So by the way, it was in our class last week that we have learned that our country has a language policy, right?
Yes.
So
Talking about language policy, I guess we have tackled that already from our past years, and I have some ideas, but I guess some of us here also have learnings, knowledge about different language policies of different countries.
Including dialects, I guess.
Oh yes.
Okay.
So who has one?
I think it's not the Philippines only that has a language policy. I guess the other country do have too.
Most especially Spain, right?
Yes, how about Korea?
Yeah. Korea also.
Okay, let me ask something. So, regarding South Korea, who is fond of this Korean pops, like this K-pop thing?
The Korean
about
lover.
K-dramas?
Melanie.
Oh, yeah.
I guess
Melanie. Korean drama.
One of the Korean lover. Okay,
Oh
go.
my God, I'm in hot
Ma'am
seat.
Richa, can you please give me one bread?
Well, actually, Korea's linguistic policies are intertwined with the Hangul or the Korea's official alphabet. Like, if we have the alphabet ABCD, then they have Hangul. That's what they call Hangul. So
So in the Philippines, it's A, B, C, D.
Yes.
In Korean,
it's Hangul.
Hangul.
Yeah.
I like it. So,
Alphabet.
discuss more about Korea.
Yeah, so the way Koreans talk, give speeches, they always connect it with their alphabet. Like, of whatever symbol is in their alphabet, they should follow it verbally. So if the symbol is like that, as in you, as in YU, then it is spoken as you. So their linguistic policies are intertwined with their alphabet or the Hangul.
The Hangul.
Yes.
Speaking of language, speaking of dialects or alphabet, does anyone here knows how to speak
Oh my
Korean
God.
or
I don't know how to speak Korean. I guess Mom Noemi knows how to speak English. Korean. Samida. All right. What else?
Annyeong.
Annyeong sayo.
안녕하세요.
All right.
밀라니입니다.
Since we're talking already about the Korean language, how about let's put it in the context of their education and with their communication. Since you have mentioned earlier about how they talk, in which they follow a certain symbol together with the word. So it was just like have you remembered the International Phonetic Alphabet?
Yes.
Yes.
The IPA.
We have that
IPA.
last I think we're first year that
Yeah,
time.
linguistics.
Yes.
So I must say that with regards to Korean language, it is it is rich in terms of variety. How about we'll talk more deep on that? Like
What kind of deal?
how about let's dig deeper with that
Okay.
language first.
Okay.
What do you mean by
Like how it was developed.
history?
The history.
The
history of the language,
Yes,
you
mean?
definitely the history. Yes, with the Korean language. And the Korean itself. It's language history.
History.
Actually, the Koreans also used some of the characters in Chinese because before Koreans was
Korea was
Korea.
Korea.
colonized
Colonized by the
by
Japanese and the
Chinese.
Chinese. That's
That's
why
why.
Yeah.
in middle school and in high school they they also use the Chinese characters in their yeah.
All right.
So, is Korea a monolingual country?
Yeah, Korea is a
Definitely,
monolingual
they're a
country.
monolingual country.
Their
So they
official and
speak-
only language is Korean.
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 But
Yeah.
in my other source, I read an article, and it has a four established and languages, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's Jijo, and we have a Korean Sign Language, Seoul, and the English, I guess.
I think the what do you call one established language.
Yeah, four established languages.
I think that is called the standard language, in which Koreans use or chose a lexicon or a dialect that they will use as a whole. So, for example, the dialect in Seoul, so that is their standard language. If we put it in Southern Leyte context, so our standard language is the Maasinhon language. So, established language is also called a standard language because Korea has a very has many dialects actually,
Okay.
but they only have one language,
which is
Korea. In both North
North
Korea
and
and
South.
South Korea, but
Okay.
they differ in standard language, in the orthography, and the loan words of South Korea because Koreans have what do you call this one? Have adapted foreign languages. Like,
Yes.
have you noticed? Oh, that is called as the notation of loan word. That is called the notation of loan word the Korean terms was borrowed from the foreign terms. Like, have you heard or have you noticed when Lee Min Ho advertised Shopee? Like when he said add to cart to,
Shopee.
add to cart to.
Okay.
So in foreign term or in English term,
Yes.
it's add to cart. So since Lee Min Ho borrowed the foreign term which is add to cart, he used add to cart too. Like
cartoon.
yeah, because as I've said earlier, the way they talk, they always connect it to their alphabet. Yeah.
Okay.
It's some kind of like a variety of
Languages.
dissected into dialects. That's why it affected their way of speaking, their communication, especially how they learn their language as they put on the foreign language that they're learning, right? Is that it? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So how about we dig deeper again on how they put this language policy thing on education, or on how they learn, how they put up their knowledge and learning towards other subjects. Like we can't deny how they should or they must learn English as a way of learning
Yes.
science or math. They may have this own way of learning math and English, but I guess the most significant way is through English because it's some kind of like the universal language of us all, and in that manner, I guess we can put up a link and connect to the world and how it is done, it is learned. How can you say about that, or what can you say about this aspect on learning English as a second language, or is English their second language?
No, I want to clarify that English language is not their second language. It's their foreign language.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually because of globalization,
And the change of
Koreans
time.
Koreans have
definitely.
adapted the English language
Yes.
because of the upgrades of the technology like that, because of the globalization actually. So they Koreans have implemented to use English language in school. Like they started it on first year middle school until third year elementary school. So and English is also a very challenging part in their
In the
in their
country, I guess, or as a Korea.
Yes, because
And
Because
It's
they
not
don't
their
know how to speak
Yeah.
English. That's why most of the Korean people go to the Philippines and study English.
Yes,
And most of
yes.
as I've
Yes.
noticed, yeah, definitely. As I've
Yes.
noticed when I went to Cebu last week, I've noticed that there are plenty of Koreans everywhere, and I'm just wondering why
Why they're
They
here
are
in the
scattered
Philippines?
everywhere because they want to learn English because
yes.
they say that here in the Philippines, we Filipinos are good speaker in
Yeah, I
English.
guess Filipino also
And
is
if
good.
they take that course here in the Philippines, they can save money, because it is much cheaper here than in their own country.
Yes.
Actually, there was an English fever called in South Korea because they were obsessed in learning English. That's why they study abroad.
Yeah.
They go to private academy for tutor.
Just to study English.
Yes, just to study English.
But I think this time because of the K dramas and
Yeah.
K-pop stars,
Oh yeah, also that.
They
Mainly-
dominate globally.
yes, many people are now studying Korean language, in which we can say that
Most
at
of the Filipino.
yes, most
who
of
loves
the
to
Filipino.
watch, Korean.
Generally, people are running with it because we can say that Korean language is already influential, right?
Yes.
Definitely.
It's true.
But the teachers in South Korea have standards in teaching Korean language. Yes. So a teacher must know the rules in teaching in speaking and writing Korean
in speaking
language.
Korean language also it has also a rules like
Yes.
a policy like it has also like in the Philippines we have a standard that how we speak or spoke English language.
How about the subject distinction, like for
Yes.
the medium in teaching? Are they using that, or in
they
terms like, for example, here in the Philippines, like for science, we are teaching in the medium of
English
English.
education.
Math is also
In English.
in English,
But
and for
a mode of communication.
Filipinos, for the oral pun, it is for the Filipino language. How about in Korea, like for
In their
and
subjects.
for their subjects?
I think
What
they
lang-
use Korean language.
only.
Yes.
Since you've mentioned like for the elementary, the only stage or the only level of education that you're going to study foreign language, which is English, is only the middle school. So can we say that during the elementary or their kindergarten or nursery, they're only learning their own language? Because as per we can't. You have mentioned and explained that Koreans do only learn other language only if they're in the middle school. So is that can we really say that Korean people at their elementary days or level, they're only using their Korean language?
Korean
No, I think I mentioned they studied English in that particular years in middle school to elementary school.
So are you
Only
saying
Korean.
that when
They
well,
are practicing on
they're practicing?
Yes.
Okay.
Korean.
yeah, English
English.
language.
Okay.
It is like here in the Philippines
Yes.
that we are using the MLTB or
Yes.
the
Oh,
mother
the mother
tongue.
tongue.
The mother
for
tongue.
Also the
elementary
English or the
English.
bilingual policy.
Yeah.
It is very relevant to as we know that it is really relevant on us Filipinos that we learn English from the time we start going to school or from home.
Even kids, no, like
Yep. Oh.
2 years old, 3
Right.
years old, they know how to speak English
Yes,
fluently.
because,
Oh my God, in my age,
Social
or at my
media.
age, I don't know how to speak English
Television.
fluently, but the small ones really know how to speak English. That's why the influence of English language is really dominant. Like I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as I was saying, from the time we start going to school, we start learning more on language on English language to be specific. And as we go higher and higher on our educational level, we tend to apply to ourselves how fluent and how master should we be or we must be to using
Using
this
English
English language as our second language implementedly from our constitution. And I guess as how you all talk lately and how you distinguish those things about education and language from Korea, I can say that it's not that hard to see the difference where Philippines is more rich in learning English. That's
yeah.
why Koreans are fond of going here.
In the Philippines.
Study English.
Foreign people go to the Philippines because they want to learn English. And I guess it's something like an upper hand level on how Philippines should be seeing itself, and more nourishing English language, because as we know, or as we all speak here today, as we communicate to each other, we can see how fluent and how developed we are in using this language, or as our second language, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Another, so another idea, or should I say, is Korea the only country here that uses, or that has a language policy, or that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Since we've mentioned already about Korea, how about the Spain? Since we've also mentioned that one too, right?
I mentioned that one earlier.
Yeah, and whereas in Spain, their official language is the Castilian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Castilian.
yeah, Castilian.
Definitely Castilian.
And all the Spaniards or Spanish people have rights, and there's a rule that they could use it in their daily lives for communication, or in the sense of instructing their children or in school. However, in Spain, there is really a large scope of its language. Just like, I think we can consider the Spain as the mother language of Filipino, or the
Yes.
language we have in the Philippines. Like, we know the uno, dos, tres.
Yes, because before
We are also
we are also colonized by Spaniards. That's why some of part, especially here in the Philippines, there are also part here that they can speak Spanish fluently, specifically in the Pitan, you know. They can
Pitan?
speak, yes, the Pitan Zamboanga.
They know how to speak
I
Yes,
think
I think that's
it's Chabacano.
Chabacano, I guess.
It's a
And
mix.
it was mentioned, or I have read a post, or like an informational post from Facebook, that most of the Philippine dialects, as distinguished, are influenced by
The Spaniards.
this Spaniard or Spanish language, and so we can really say that Chabacano thing is also
A Spaniard.
Spanish. Yeah,
that way Spanish.
Yeah, because Spanish people from the history really has many places or many countries that they colonized, including the America,
Yeah,
the
definitely. The
Colombia,
Latin America.
Mexico. Yeah,
Latin
they're,
America.
Latin America.
yeah, that's why those countries also uses some kind of Spanish, but in different
Dialect.
varieties.
Varieties. Yeah.
Yeah. And where Spain has 3 regions, right? It's
What are those?
Catalan,
It's the
Basque,
Castilian,
no,
Catalan,
Catalan.
Catalan,
Galician, and
Catalan.
Basque.
Catalan.
Catalan,
Catalan.
Basque, and the Galician. So, yes, those are the 3. And that 3 has many different distinctions about its own language, really, especially in, like, we already talked about the aspect of education in the South Korea. So, in Spain, there's really a somewhat kind big difference in,
dominant language.
yeah, there's the dominant language, but the Castilian,
Catalan.
As Catalan language.
Catalan language is the official language
Yes.
in the Spanish,
And
and
they use it.
In Spain.
in Spain, yeah. And
And Spanish
well,
people.
I think it's kind of confusing because at some point I also expected that the Espanol is the
Yeah.
official language of the Spain.
Can you
Yeah.
please clarify that one?
Yeah,
I'm also confused.
Me too. I'm confused. So,
There are-
can you explain about? Can you
Elaborate?
explain or elaborate
Elaborate
more about
further?
further?
There are really just places that they speak Espanol, and well, just like the Philippines, in the Philippines there is a policy, I think, right? There's a policy that imposes that Filipino will be the national language.
And English is the second language.
Yeah. Also in Spanish, they have also like they also have a policy that states that the Catalan language will be their official language. So
How about the Spanish?
Espanol is language also, but it is not that official.
Yeah.
It's not there really official for the whole Spain country.
I think there's a misconception
Yes.
with that one because, like, for the colonizers, I mean, in our elementary subjects, the Hikasi or
Hikasi.
Makabayan.
Kasi
Aral-
makabayan.
No, before
Aral
we
Talisay
call
High
that
School.
Hikasi
Hikasi,
or
yes.
Makabayan.
Yes.
So there's a difference. I mean, before there's a misconception between Castilla and Espanol.
Yeah.
Castilla and Espanol back then, I'm from what I have understood, it's the same.
Yeah, they were,
But these two are different
yeah.
because as what you've said, Castellan is
Catalan.
Catalan and Espanol, which are also different in which Catalan. But the language or the official language is the Catalan.
No, Castilian.
It's
It's
Castilian Spanish.
Castilian.
Castilian Spanish.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean,
So
Very confusing.
I think you've mentioned already about, I mean, some sort of development in terms of language. So how about we'll talk all about, I mean, how does the Spain, I mean, what's the language again? Castilian develop through time.
Yeah.
So how was that language developed through time? Okay.
So, really, the Spanish people really have different countries, just as I've said earlier, that they have colonized many different countries. So, as they colonized those countries, the language that they use is also developed because, for example, they have colonized the Latin America. Are you familiar with the Latin America?
Yes.
In the
It's a
Latin
continent,
America,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In Latin America, for example, I'll give you example for a concrete information. Like in Latin America, they pronounce the Z as S.
S.
But
So,
in
Sibra.
yeah, just they don't have the word zebra.
Zebra, it's a zebra.
Yeah,
Zebra.
but in the Spain,
Sibsa.
Sib-
Sibsa.
no, it's they can pronounce R.
Ah, okay.
R.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in Spain, they pronounce Z as TH.
As in,
Yeah, so like they say artikulo tres instead of saying artikulo tres.
Artikulo 3.
Tres.
Okay.
That's what they also pronounce muchas gracias. We Filipino, we pronounce muchas gracias in their own, the way they talk,
the
they
way
say
they-
it muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas.
Yeah.
Meaning to say, muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much in English. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
education.
So is that all?
Yeah, and also for the education,
I think
right?
in education they use the
they're-
Castilian as their medium of instruction.
No,
As
I
their-
think the Catalan.
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 I mean
It's
Catalan.
Catalan.
They use the
Catalan.
language as
Catalan.
their
They use Catalan
medium
as
of
model
instruction
or medium
in
of
their
instruction.
educational system.
They are very strict in that matter because they need to only use Catalan.
Yes.
And if you've not use it in
There will be fines.
fines, punishment.
Yeah.
In the Catalan,
Goodness.
only in Catalan region.
Yes.
So there were 3 major regions in the Spain. So
Yeah,
in Catalan, if
If
you
you are in
don't,
Catalan, you are only required to speak
Catalan.
the Catalan language.
Catalan.
So
Because
it's
Not-
just like it's just like if you go to Manila, so the Filipino the oh my God,
the language.
people there, the language we used is Tagalog.
Yeah.
So when you go back to Maasin City, you speak Bisaya. Oh, so it's just like that.
But in there, when they use like their dialects or other language, they will have a fine for using that. So it is really that strict in the Catalan in terms of education.
And language
Yeah.
policy.
Implemented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why they keep
Because-
that because for them it's a kind of language, a heritage for them. That's why
Yeah.
they keep it as their culture. something like that.
It seems like it's their way of nourishing or
Yeah.
maintaining that certain level
preserving.
of standard and preserving
The
their
language.
language to keep those boundaries that people should or must inherit in themselves the knowledge or the capability to speak the language,
Yes.
to use the language fluently and better on different aspects of life.
Yes, definitely.
Meanwhile, for the other two regions, the Galatia and the Bosque, it is not that strict.
Galatian.
Galatia.
I think it is pronounced Galatian.
Galatian when you say regions, when it is regions, but when you say
Language or
It's a
language,
people who speak
Galatia.
Galatia.
Yeah.
It's Galasha
There's
language.
this difference.
Galatia language.
okay.
What's
So,
what's that other region again?
Catalan and Bosque.
Boss.
Yeah.
That
So,
region.
yeah. Unlike in the Catalan, the child in the school has their own rights of choosing what language they were
Use.
going to use.
Yes.
Yeah, and just as I think it is just the same in the Bosque region because the teachers will just depend on the decision of the parents of what language they were going to use in teaching their kids. So it's not as strict unlike in the Catalan
It's very
region. Yeah.
I can really say that there's this big effect of Spanish thing, this
Yeah,
this
truly.
Spaniard colonization thing that we all have this prior knowledge on how those things circulate around us, especially those bread you're eating, right?
Yeah, it's Spanish
There's this influence on those bread
and this coffee thing.
this
Yeah.
tea, coffee,
Yeah.
the bread.
Korean
Style.
It's a Korean setup with those
With matching
Spanish
like
food
Spanish.
theme.
Okay.
So just to recap, for the Korea, we have Korean as the official language.
Yes,
Yes.
only
And
language.
Monolingual.
Yeah, it is a
Korea is a
monolingual
monolingual
country.
country.
And for the Spain, we have
Galatia.
Galatia.
the official language.
The official language
Castilian.
Castilian.
Castilian. Yes.
Castile.
For Korean, we have
Castilian.
for the Korean language as the official language, and Castilian for the Spain as the
Official
official language. So let's connect this two. Are there common or similarities with their language policies?
For the South Korea and the Spain, you mean?
Yes.
I think they both foster their language. They both they love their language. Like in Korea, they only speak that. Like for example, in Catalan,
yeah.
they have strictly implemented that they need only to speak that
Certain language.
It's their
They
love
always
for
value their own languages
yeah.
because of its richness. That's why they keep that.
Language.
Wait, Spain, is Spain adapting to English language or
I guess that all countries, especially those countries that
Universal.
that are developing or that are
Yeah, as you
Trying
said,
to-
that
big
as
space
times
around
goes
them,
by,
they're adapting to English
English.
because
Because
it's
it is
it's a way of
worldwide-
connecting to the world.
Yeah.
It's a link.
As you've said, it's for globalization.
globalization, and to be
Because of
highly competent.
globalization, people will be learning or will learn a language which is the English language.
Yeah.
so I think that's the common factor,
A factor from that
from
countries.
in both
Yes, but
countries.
from what I have understood, I can see the effectivity, the importance of the language in terms of the Spanish, because as you've said, for the Catalan, there's a fine imposed,
Yeah.
whereas in Korea, there's no fine being imposed
Yes.
in their policy,
And in the Philippines.
and in the Philippines also.
Yeah.
We can speak
I
freely.
can really feel the I can really feel the Spanish giving importance with their language.
Actually,
They're giving-
Koreans are also giving importance to their language, like the Korean language, because they fight for it for many years because of the colonization of the Japanese and Chinese. So while they are speaking English, they are also preserving or developing the Korean language. I think it's every 5 years or 2 years. Yes.
And same as the Philippines, we can say, or we must see this as bias, but we all know that we still have that preservation of the baybayin thing, or
Yes,
the
baybayin.
baybayin
That's
way of communicating, or the language that this baybayin are, the uniqueness of this kind of language of the Filipinos. And as to say, it is leveled or balanced through how English is also implemented in a way that it is freely taught to us Filipinos, young learners, in a way that it is implemented in our educational system, as to say that it will not hinder our way of communicating as Filipinos, that we possess this Filipino language, our own dialects, but also putting into account that we must learn English as well, because it is a way that we must, or we can connect to the world and
Yes.
link to each and everyone, especially those who are not of the same race, the same ethnicity, and of course not from the same
Language.
country and nation as we are, right?
Yes, yes, and
Precisely.
that's the common that's the common thing between these two countries.
Yeah.
They're
These-
learning
these
English.
three countries.
These three countries.
Actually.
They're learning English for globalization.
Yes.
For
For
globalization.
communication.
For communication.
Yes.
Yes. For professional growth. For anything in academic.
Yeah.
In
Yes.
education and business.
Economical growth.
Economical growth.
Yes, because
Yes,
many
because-
companies are hiring those people who know
Yeah, because
who know how to
Fluent in
Definitely,
speak
because
English.
nowadays
Speak
we are now
English,
in an era where there is a high competence in every aspect of the in every field, every aspect
In the field of specialization.
in every field of specialization, because definitely there are lots of advantages if you can speak
if you know how
English
to speak
fluently.
English,
You know, it will ask what Ariella says, Miss Universe Ariella says. Speaking English will be your passport to have a better future, right? Which is correct. That's why.
But I think that's contradicted with Miss Janine Togonan. Yes, Janine Togonan.
There is
She-
no
there's no specific language to be learned
As
in
long
order
as-
as long as you have the
can-
heart and the
passion.
will, the passion to serve, then you can be.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God,
And
so
to
hot.
sum up those ideas, I mean, this language policy has only one
Goal.
vision, one goal.
Yes.
May it be that this language policy only emphasize their own language, or foster English as a matter to take into account. But this language policy just means that we can envision, or we can see how things should go in order for us to be literate, to be communicable to
Yeah.
others. And this language policy enables us to have these skills, capabilities, and knowledge for us to grow and fund ourselves with the different capacity and skills, these different standards and different orientation of how the world sees, because we are able to communicate. And I guess that's how this language policy aims us to mold, or how we should be built up for the future, or as we grow along with time, because as we know, language, the different things matter or progress as time goes by, or as time passes through the years.
Yes. We can also see between these three countries, the Philippines, Korea, and Spanish, that they're giving importance with their language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as what we have learned, that language also signifies the culture, in which culture has a really important or a vital role in developing such language, because it influenced not just one person. It influenced, it's a very influential thing that that people will absorb or learn. What's the emphasis being imposed by these three countries, is by giving the importance that we should really learn our own language before learning other language, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm,
So
will that be all for this language discussion thing?
I guess.
It's
At least there is a clarification between
Between
these
what
two
are the
countries.
goals
The
of
misconceptions.
the misconception.
Are answered,
Clear.
clarified.
The history
language
of each
policy.
country.
wait, can I just want to I just want to clarify. I think I have I forget. I mean I'm confused with the with the
What?
Spain.
Spain.
Is it a monolingual country?
no, it's
No.
multilingual.
Multilingual.
It's a multilingual, whereas Korea is a monolingual.
Monolingual.
Ah, okay.
That's
So-
the difference.
So
I think that's it.
I guess that's all for two countries that we're going to tackle, to discuss, to share our thoughts and ideas about the countries, I guess. So,
But by the way, before we end up discussion, if you are given a chance to visit those countries, what country are
between
going
these two countries,
Yeah,
which do you choose?
Spain.
Spain.
Spain definitely. I love to go
I
to
love
Spain.
There are a lot of coffees. in
Oh my
Spain.
God, Spain.
But there are a lot of opas.
Now, it's now the battle between opas and coffee.
Yes.
It's coffee.
Not
the 3-in-1 coffee.
Battle
Muchas gracias, mi
Muchas
Opa and
gracias.
Spanish bread.
Spanish bread, yes.
I think that's all.
And I hope that next time that we're going to like
to discuss
have
another-
something like this,
Yeah.
like
Next
we're
time,
going to share some fruitful discussion again about any other countries.
Next time, let's talk about what
Bulgaria.
Oh my God, you guys, perfect country. I love it. What else? What country that
The
maybe
battle between the Latin American Asia.
that has astonishing culture, tradition, and oh my God, the language policy of each country. Oh my God, interesting.
By the way, what do you mean? Astonishing.
Just like a surprising. Just like that.
Okay. Any
What
clarification? More
Bulgaria?
clarification?
Bulgaria.
And
Yes,
Let's make-
because I found interesting with Bulgaria because it's not a known country.
yeah,
How about Bolivia too?
Bolivia is also it's a Latin America also. It's a Latin America country also.
Let's talk that after.
Let's talk about that next
Next.
when we will
In our
meet
next
together.
Give it a chance.
episode.
The next episode. Who knows?
Oh God.
thank you for
Any
listening.
clarification?
So,
So
Any
So
addition?
if you have any clarification,
Any
kindly
clarifications?
just
clarifications,
comment.
queries, I guess. What else?
comment down your suggestions.
So you guys, you better help us.
By the way, thank you for having
Thank
this
you
coffee, and I
for-
think I need to go because I have
Me too. I need to
meeting
go too.
by 5 p.m. Thank you for the nice table
discussion.
setting.
Bye. Mom.
Adios, mi amiga, mi amigo.
Bye.